Hey guys, so before we start for today, I'm going to need you to listen to the piece before we get going. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I linked it below in the description. If you're watching from Blackboard, right under the link for your handout is the link for a YouTube recording of the piece. What I'd like you to do is listen to it once without the score. It's short. Listen to it once without the score, just kind of get your first initial ideas and thoughts about it. Read the text translation and then listen to it again while following the score. And once you do that, go ahead and come on back and we will get started. Welcome back. Get excited. It is analysis day. This was my favorite day when I had you guys in person. So we're going to try and keep it rolling, even though we're not actually in person anymore. You should already have Handout 24 because you needed it for the pre-listening. So all it is a score and a text translation for the piece. Now, we're going to spend a lot of time with different aspects of the music and the text today. I want you to keep in mind one very specific question throughout our dialogue, as it is, monologue-ish. Is there a grudge? So the very first line of text, I bear no grudge. I want you to keep in mind the fact that that might not be true. And let's see what the music tells us in relationship to the text and see if we can come up with an answer to this question. Looking ahead, there is no homework assignment for this lecture. So I hope you still listen because this is one of my favorite pieces. It'll be a lot of fun. We get to do some really cool analysis with it. But there is no homework for this particular lecture. We will start off next week with the Neapolitan. All right, so I'm going to jump over to the score and we will get going. Now, the first thing I actually want to talk about is a kind of review of how music and text can interact. The last analysis day we did, we looked at a Schubert song. And one of the things we talked about was how the piece is in this very bright D flat major. There are a whole bunch of things going on that make us think it is a happy piece of music. Without knowing the text, if you don't realize how the text ends, you really have no idea going into it that the poem ends in the way it does, with this sort of kind of tragic death of fish. But when we start the third stanza of text, the text still hasn't given anything away. But if you remember, the music actually tonicizes the relative minor for 4 measures. So we get this instance where the music is not technically working against the text, but it's foreshadowing what is coming up in the text. So our most common music text relationship is just that they work together, right? And that can be in a lot of ways. We think of it mostly in terms of major or minor tonic key areas, but it could be things like melodic motive, tempo, orchestration. All kinds of things can come into play with how the music and the text reflect themselves or reflect one another. So when music and text are working together, that is our most common sort of baseline. And that can be at a microcosmic level too, when we're talking about text painting and things like that. Music can also work against the text or in some way maybe counterintuitive to the text, like we saw in Di Fiorella with the foreshadowing. So I want us to keep that in mind as we kick off into this piece. So let's just take a look at the very first phrase and let's talk just key area to start. So if you're looking at the text, first line of text, I bear no grudge even though my heart is breaking. And we are in just a big old bright plain old C major. Now, can you look at these first 4 bars, just that first system of music? There is one chromaticism, pretty easy to find, so I want you to grab it for me. We have a flat 6 here. Now, I would like you to do a little harmonic analysis just of that harmony for me, please. So take a second, figure out what harmony you have. So we're in C major. D is your root. We got a full 7th chord there. So we have a 2/7 But that mixture pitch, that flat 6, alters its quality. So we go from a minor, minor 7 chord to a half diminished 7th chord. The rest of this harmonically is really easy peasy. Nothing particularly interesting. We have this big descending thirds pattern in the left hand of the piano. But other than that, nothing terribly interesting. We go to 4-6 to root position 4. We have our 2 half diminished 7, 5-7 to 1. Now that might seem like it's just a kind of, I don't know, throwaway moment. It's one chromatic pitch. It's probably not a huge deal. We're really early in the piece. Not much magic is happening yet. But first off, I want you to take stock of what word that particular chromaticism is on. If you don't know German, Herz means heart. If this is the soundtrack of my life and someone's talking about my heart, I don't think that the harmony I want to hear is that one. So that's a first kind of impression, first thought. I'd like you to sing the melody, and I'll sing it as well. I'm going to play just block chords underneath you, but I just want you to sing the melody. Solfege or numbers, it's your call. I'm probably going to sing on solfege. But I want you to just sing along and kind of get a feel for it. Mi, re, do, fa, 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 la, so, mi. So not only do we have this chromaticism, there are a couple other things going on. So here's our 2 half diminished 7. You've got a D in the bass. You've got the A flat in the vocal line. So we're really harping on this tritone dissonance. And then the harmony changes underneath. So we move to our dominant. And that A flat hangs on, that flat 6 just hangs on over beat 3 for just a half a beat before it resolves, a beat and a half, sorry, before it resolves. So not only do we get dissonance against the bass, but just dissonance against the next harmony. Now, we're going to play around with this phrase a little bit. The first thing I want to do is diatonicize it. So I'm going to actually get rid of the A flat and play it through again with an A natural. So completely diatonic, regular old 2-7 chord. And if you're able, I'd like you to sing along with this one too. So same thing, but you're going to sing me a diatonic scale degree 6. Mi, re, do, fa, 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 la, so, mi. So that changes things a little bit, just it's slightly brighter, right? The A flat isn't there to kind of catch you off guard and to be so incredibly dissonant against the bass. Last thing we're going to do, let's do the whole thing in C minor and see how that changes your sense of the phrase, your sense of the text, and kind of how the music relates to it. I'm not going to sing this time. You just sing along if you're able. Solfege or numbers, I ain't going to be able to tell anyways. So what happens when we switch everything to minor? First off, that 2 chord is no longer a mixture chord. It's diatonic to the key. It's just kind of enmeshed in all of that C minor sound. So why then do we choose this mixture pitch at this particular moment? Why do we choose to start in C major in the first place? Again, just keep thinking about that question. Is there a grudge? What is going on? Sorry, I get locked out of the iPad every couple minutes. All right, let's keep going. Look at the next little bit. 4 bars, let's say. I want you to think about the vocal line's relationship to the harmonies underneath. So this is an interesting passage in a harmonic sense. So we're here on A minor. This is actually a C major major 7 chord, G in the bass. And where is the voice? Again, the voice is on that dissonant seventh. And then we do the whole thing again. Again, major, major seventh chord. This time F is the root. And the voice again has got that dissonant seventh. And then what's actually interesting, last measure of that system, is we get another chromatic chord. Take a second to figure out what that is. And I'm going to mark this up a little bit to reflect what I was chatting about. So we get dissonant vocal line here, dissonant appoggiatura again here, kind of grinding against those two major, major seventh quality harmonies. Let's look at the text. Loose translation is forever lost love. Can we talk about the melodrama here for a quick second? My eternally lost love. And then just in case you didn't get it, we're going to do it again. So I might be revealing kind of my thoughts about this text-music relationship, but how dramatic is that? This kind of really pointed dissonance. Appoggiatura, so we're leaping into it, kind of shining a spotlight on it before we step down to a more consonant pitch. Okay, this harmony I asked you to look at, it's missing a guy, but you can still kind of figure out what's going on. We have a D7. So if we're in C major, we have our favorite friend, the sharp 4. So this is a 5-7 of 5. But even so, we've got this scale degree 5 pedal underneath it. So even though it works completely logically with the harmony, right? Here's your 5. And then down B, the next system, measure 10, it resolves. Take a look at the text for me. Every time we come to this idea of I bear no grudge, literally in the text, something happens to tip us off as to whether or not that is really the case. And in this case, we get a sort of a little bit of a messy applied dominant. It's not tragic. We can't not figure out what's going on. But maybe, maybe it's not the most grounded musical response. What is even better, though, you don't know how to label this yet, and you won't learn that till next semester, and that's fine. But I would like a root and quality of that harmony right there. So this is actually a text repetition that doesn't occur in the poem itself, but we're saying it again for good measure, just in case anyone missed it the first time. But normally when you say something again for emphasis, you expect it to come out stronger, right? What happens this time is the exact opposite effect. If you found the root and quality yet, we have A sharp, fully diminished 7. Now, there are a couple things we can say about that particular harmony. I'm going to go back up to the last measure of the second system. So where we get that 5, 5-7 to 5 to 5. Take a listen to this. And then we go to our dominant and tonic. Fully diminished 7th chord out of nowhere. And it's not even just a fully diminished 7th chord. Where does that come from? We have an A sharp, which is definitely not in the key. We have a C sharp, also definitely not in the key. Like I said, you'll learn to label this next semester. The idea, though, is that it is out of left field. And again, oops, sorry. right on that piece of text that is repeated, that is telling us, I'm fine. I bear no grudge. It's cool. I'm fine. Again, soundtrack of my life. If I'm trying to convince someone that I'm fine, that ain't the harmony I want to hear underneath it, right? Okay. Let's jump ahead. All I'm going to say about this next passage is we've got some sequencing. We do, again, I mean, look at this harmony. We're spinning out of left field a little bit in terms of our relationship to C major. And then we peter out with, this is actually kind of interesting. We get our 5-7. This that I don't think we talked about up here. And then we get that A sharp fully diminished 7 chord again to our 5-6-5. So we repeat the same progression we had here, something very similar. Let's jump to page 2. So page 2 starts the same way. It's sort of almost like a reboot. We taper off at the end of the first page and then kind of re-energized again at the beginning. And again, I bear no grudge, even though my heart is breaking. We have our chromatic pitch here with, again, our 2 half diminished 7. We entertain the same pattern as we did the first time through. So as we come to the end of the first system, moving into measure 24, we've got the same harmonic and melodic pattern we had before. Things get a little dicier towards the middle of the second system. And what I want you to zero in on, and what I'm going to have you give me roots and qualities for, is anytime this guy is talking about hearts or love, I want you to zero in on the quality of those chords. So what I mean is, we got a little bit here. So I want to know the root and quality of this. I want to know the root and quality of this. And I want to know the root and quality of this. So from a text perspective, those first 2 are both talking about hearts. And the third circle that I gave you is talking about love. So give me a root and quality of those. And to entertain you while you do, or you could actually just kind of listen to me chopping around. I am going to actually just play it for you so you can get ears on it. Some of it, like I said, is different from the pattern on the first page. So how about, I'm going to go to the pickup of 23, which is the pickup to the last system, or last measure of the first system, sorry. And I'm just going to play, again, in block chords so you can get ears on it. This is actually probably the most interesting part. I'm going to stop it there. I was at downbeat of 28. So pause me if you need a little more time to work this out. And let's talk. So this first circle that I gave you on Hertzens is actually from the pattern that we talked about on the first page. F major. 4-3, we've got this big old appoggiatura here. So you can, if that makes you uncomfortable talking about a major 7th chord like that in this idiom, you can call it just a triad with an appoggiatura. Count that E as a non-chord tone. But the idea is that guy is pretty dissonant against everything else. And again, the fact that we're leaping into it just shines a big old spotlight on it. Now, on the first page, the pattern actually broke right after this. We keep going this time. And we get another mention of hearts. And this time, we've got still diatonic, but again, you know, if I'm talking about hearts, maybe I don't really want super dissonant intervals and super dissonant harmonies, but here we are. And look at the text here is just fantastic. He's talking about a snake that bit her heart. This is incredibly, again, kind of melodramatic text here. And then the last thing, the last one I asked for, you've actually seen this one already. This is our D half diminished 7 chord, so that's our 2 half diminished 7. It's not even he's talking about love. He's talking about mind leap, my love. But I'm going to harmonize you that way. And look at the rest of this phrase. He's saying there, first off, if you look at the left hand, we've just got this big rising fourth pattern. So we're kind of ratcheting up energy in that way. The harmonies are a little crunchy, yeah? So I'm at measure 28. So we've got another half diminished 7 chord there. And then this one is great. Other half of that measure. Big F augmented triad. So we could talk forever on who's a chord tone, who's not, what's going on. There's your D half diminished. And we've got, this is interesting, you got a 3/6. That gives you this teeny tiny last eighth note. 5/7 before we go to 1. The reason I make that point is, as quick and cheesy as it is, it's still a pack. And we have not had one yet. We've had a lot of IACs, but we have not had a perfect authentic cadence yet. And again, it's quick, it's fast, it buzzes by, but it's a pack. And the reason I make that point and draw your attention to it is this is this guy saying, my love, I know how miserable you are. And as he's saying that, I know how miserable you are. Is she really though? That doesn't seem like the harmony that you would have, the type of cadence you would have if someone really was terribly miserable. Again, I refer to this kind of soundtrack of my life a lot with this piece because I think it's a decent analogy. How would you expect the soundtrack of this to go? Okay, last little bit we're going to look at. We're coming to the very end. Fitting that the last little bits of text are just, again, I'm fine. I bear no grudge. It's cool. I'm fine. I want to know what happens harmonically, though. Can you take a second? And I'm going to ask for a few things. First, I would like root and quality of these two harmonies. So pause me and work it out. And then when you come back, we'll talk through it. So you've got E7. We've got an E dominant that goes to F major. Now, we just learned secondary dominants before you left. And we talked a lot about how when you get a dominant quality chord, it's a 5 of somebody. And then it goes to that somebody. And E7, where am I expecting it to go? If E is 5, your answer, some flavor of an A. We're in C major, so let's say A minor. And hey, that makes a lot of sense, right? A minor, relative minor. Maybe this guy is getting a moment of insight and he's going to tonicize the relative minor at the very end of the piece for a little bit. But instead, we go from E dominant to F major. It seems maybe initially like that was just a failed secondary dominant, or maybe you think that you don't know how to label it. I want you to keep yourself in A minor though. E dominant, if you saw an E dominant to F major in the key of A minor, how would you label it? What would you do? Your answer for that. If you were in A minor, and I am not suggesting that we've modulated, I'm just writing this down so it's easier for you to understand. We just had a 5/7 to 6 in A minor. We would label that as a deceptive cadence. So here we are. He just gets done telling this woman that I know how miserable you are, but hey, it's cool because I bear no grudge. And the music just totally throws him under the bus. Not only do we decide, I'm going to tonicize the relative minor, which again, maybe this is a moment of enlightenment for him. But then no, deceptive cadence. This dude's a liar. The music just completely told you that he is lying. 5/7 to 1, and yes, we could have stopped there, and we could have actually had a nice cadence. But again, the piano just serves this incredible role. All it really does is kind of plunk around for 4 bars, but look how we end. Scale degree 5 in the top voice. After all of that kind of convincing that we do, trying to convince us that there's no grudge, it's cool, I'm fine. The music does everything in its power to tell us that is baloney, including the way that it ends. The only good, solid pack we really can hang our hats on is the one where he's trying to convince us that her life is actually, in fact, miserable. Okay. So this is a piece that I teach on the first day of Theory 3, and we go into a little bit more detail in some of the stuff. But for the most part, you guys now have the harmonic language to get all of the fun things. So I asked you to kind of pontificate on whether or not there is a grudge. Again, I pretty much showed my cards very early on. But I think this piece is a beautiful example of how music can interact with the text in such poignant ways without we never vacate the key area. We're in C major the entire time, all of that C major, but the music still finds these very, very specific ways to tell us things about the text that maybe are not explicit. I mean, the dude says he bears no grudge several times, and pretty much every time the music blows up his spot a little bit. So I cannot take credit for this next thing. All credit goes to Professor Long for this. She sent me it, and I asked if I had permission to use it because it is one of the greatest things I've seen in a long time. But if you would like to see a visual representation of how I feel about this singer and whether or not he really does bear a grudge, Professor Long created this gem for me. Well, not for me, she's using it for her class, but it's fantastic. Obviously, this is what I think about the piece. I hope you got a good laugh out of it, and I hope you enjoyed this. I really miss doing the analysis days with you in person. I will try to make them as fun and engaging as I can, even when I'm just kind of here in my dining room by myself. So no homework due for next class. If you're listening to this on timeline, it's April 10th, I think. And expect a survey of some sort in the next day or two. I just kind of want to poll you guys and see what's working, what's not, all that fun stuff, so I can adjust as we go. So expect a survey, or maybe even like a short video giving you instructions on filling it out or what have you. But Welcome to your first remote analysis day. I hope it was fun. It's a great piece. It's a really cool piece. It would be worth your while to just go through and analyze it. And if you have questions, as always, feel free to shoot me emails. I'm happy to talk to you through it or Zoom with you during office hours to work out kind of some of the funky harmonies. If you want to know about that A sharp fully diminished seventh chord, just let me know and I'm happy to talk you through it. But it's a great piece. It's short and sweet, packs a lot of punch into a short amount of space. So I hope you guys enjoyed. And we will start with the Neapolitan on next class, which will kind of be Monday or whenever you're listening to it. But within the next 6 lectures, we're going to kind of round out your harmonic language for the semester. So we'll get the Neapolitan, we'll get all the augmented 6 chords, and then you guys will have an awesome harmonic library to use for the rest of the semester and bring you into Theory 3. All right. Thanks, guys. Stay safe. Stay well. If you've got questions, let me know, and I'll talk to you soon.